In today's episode of the Deadly Dozen podcast, we're going to be going through the 6 questions, 12 tips with Bex. This weekend we're actually at Middlesbrough, which was the first track race outside of Macclesfield for the UK team. It actually feels like a bit of an anticlimax saying that, because we've had events in Texas and South Africa, and obviously for us this was only 2.5, 3 hours away, but it was a big deal because we did 5 races in Mac and then sort of getting in the vans and booking hotels. So rather than it just being down the road, because literally the track is 5 minutes from the gym. The equipment's in all our garages behind the gym, but we had to load up the vans, we had to book hotels, we had a 10-person team, stayed the night in a hotel or a Airbnb, all the kit in the trailer, and we set up the first event in Middlesbrough, and it went smooth, as expected really. We didn't have enough judges, so usually at Macclesfield we have about 50 to 60 volunteer judges turn up. Obviously we have a volunteer pack. At Middlesbrough 16 turned up. So the HQ team had to be involved. But how did you think it went, Bex?
Yeah, brilliantly. I thought if you'd have told me we were going to have 16 judges on the day, I probably would have panicked a bit and thought, how are we going to deliver the same experience? We know that other competitors from our MAC races who are going to be there, we've got repeat entrants, and they've got a whole new wave of people wanting to try the race for the first time. How are we going to deliver this amazing race we've been talking about and delivering? We've got a great pedigree, great history. So I'm glad I didn't find that information until we'd actually started. And I think it's a testament to the team on the day, the judges we did have, the core team that travelled up, where everyone just pitched in. You know, yourself, you were counting reps before people finished. I put the mic down, didn't really MC most of the day, because the most important thing was making sure people were supported, reps were counted, movement standards were upheld. And I don't think there was any competitor across the entire day that seemed a bit miffed or a bit sort of like, oh, where is everyone? And then we had a fantastic stand right beside the track, which I didn't quite realise how much vibe and atmosphere that would bring. I know, shout out to Border Warrior, they brought 45 people from Carlisle on a coach, and I knew when they'd arrived because you could hear them.
Well, I saw them sat together. I was like, why are all them people sat together in the stadium? And it was all one group. Yeah,
one group who did brilliantly, podiumed and everything. And what I loved about the day was the weather wasn't amazing in the morning, was it? It was a bit chilly, we were putting kit out. And I thought, oh, come on, we need the weather to improve. And it did. And I just feel like, observationally, I don't have the numbers of the data, but it looked like people stuck around longer. Yeah. It looked like the general or average length of time people came to the event and stayed for was longer. Really good community spirit and vibe to it. Lots of cheering, loads of noise. Grass was dry, people getting PBs, some fantastic times as well. So it couldn't have gone better, I don't think. You know, for going to a brand new place, because we know the race, we know Macclesfield so well. I thought, oh gosh, yeah, actually we're going to find some stuff here. But it was brilliant, yeah, really, really good. Team on the day at the Leisure Centre were great as well, just let us get on with it. And it was absolutely fantastic, couldn't have asked more. DJ was cracker as well, he was really good.
And I think a big part of the crowd was, I think the North East, folk from the North East bring it, don't they?
Yeah, they do.
You know, it's like even, I know this was Middlesbrough, but Newcastle United fans are quite infamous, aren't they, for really being good fans. And I do think there was a sort of North Eastern vibe there.
And that's what I love about us going outside of Macclesfield and going to different countries, is what are the different feels and vibes going to be like in these different countries, cultures, areas, regions that are going to have that little spin. Because the race is always the same. It's always on the track, always on the field, same equipment, all that good stuff. But what is each race going to have, the little differences, and who's there on the day? That's what I like to see. And Middlesbrough went brilliantly. Yeah. Great
race experience for everyone. So it was happy days. So it was another benchmark sort of met, isn't it, that we've gone abroad actually before we actually travelled outside of Macclesfield in the UK. Now we've done the first one. I think the next one is a Macclesfield event, and then we're over to London and then to Edinburgh, which is a little bit longer car journey. But in all honesty, my worry was that I was going to wake up early, set up the Deadly Dozen, do a full day running the event, which is not, too strenuous, is it? Because it's, it's a good team, it's an event that flows. But I was worried that I was going to finish the day and go, right, I've got to, even if it's a 2, 3, 4, 5 hour drive, it'd be too much. But actually, I got home at 8 p.m. and I felt quite fresh. It was no different than finishing a day at the gym. Yeah, I felt good.
Yeah, I got back, got a shower, and I was like, oh, I thought I'd want to go straight to bed, hit the pellet, but I was like, well, I could stay up, do some bits and pieces. So it was good. Really good day.
Overall, a success.
Giving. Yeah.
So what we'll do today then, as mentioned, It's like on the last podcast, we went through my 6 questions and tips I had. Today, we're going to be interviewing Bex. So we'll get straight into it. So question number 1 is, what are your top 2 training tips?
Okay, so my first tip is to have a plan. So I often see people tread water or spin their wheels or whatever you kind of want to term it because they don't have any sort of structure to their training. This could be training for a half marathon, it could be strength training, it could be fitness racing. And I just advise people to reach out to the expertise within either your gym or your team sport, your club. The internet is absolutely full of great advice, some not so great advice as well, so choose your sources carefully. But I do think that having some sort of plan, thinking about your next session, your next week, month, we talked about macrocycles, mesocycles, putting it into PT terms. If you don't have that and you're thinking, oh, why am I not getting fitter, why am I not getting stronger, I'm not getting faster, well, you're not really structuring your training in the right way, and you can't really expect to achieve something and advance something if you don't really know how to structure it. So plans are available online. I'd rather see people feel good about the training they are doing and be able to see progress, because ultimately progressive overload, we know you can't improve without it, can't reach any sort of goals. So yeah, time and time again, I did a video actually in my early days as a PT in here, and I sort of did a bit of a mock-up of it's like me basically pretending to be someone who didn't have a plan. So I'd have the battle ropes and I'd like flick them a bit and be like, oh, I'm gonna put them down, I'm gonna go and do some hanging up on the rig here. Oh, I'm a bit bored of that, I'll go and lift something up. Or like, I don't know what weight have I got on this bar? And it resonated with loads of people. It took me not that long to make the video. People were like, oh my God, that's me. I just go in the gym and I get there and go, right. And it becomes like a playground. People go on lots of stuff and pick things up and put them down and go, oh, yeah, I've got a bit of sweat on. And they go, oh, but my running's still not very good. So they don't really have a plan. They go into the gym and that's better than nothing, of course. But then they're kind of exercising. They're not training, not moving towards something. They're not moving the big ball, as we've said before, or moving the needle. So having a plan, speak to someone in your gym or your team sport that you play or wherever you have reliable information, and have some sort of plan in place. And that doesn't mean a spreadsheet or an app or something, but at least have something to aspire to, work towards, and work back from that goal to then structure your training, and you'll progress so much better. Each training session will be better quality, and you'll actually see the progression. And that motivation, as we know, kind of compounds itself as you go along. Some people go, oh, I just need to be motivated to start. It's like, we need to start, then motivation builds. And if you've got a plan, probably, I would say, I'd be really confident that the plan is going to help you to start, and vice versa. So it goes hand in hand, really.
Yeah, I remember after leaving the military because everything was so structured and we were taught so well, and I was a PTI in the military, is when I left, I almost assumed knowledge from people. And because I was always surrounded by, gym coaches and in different gyms and working as an S&C coach, I assumed that everyone did follow plans. And then I quickly learned that actually a lot of people, they're in the gym, and nowadays there is a lot more information. You can go onto YouTube, you can follow plans, you've got the internet, but there still is a lot of people that, because they might not be as passionate as me or you about fitness, they're not going out and seeking it, but they want to be in a gym. And these are the people you mentioned, why it resonates, that they're not like us that might have gone, right, we're going to do a deep dive in YouTube, or we're going to listen to these podcasts, or we're going to read these books, and had a real vested interest in learning how to do physical exercise. These people go in a gym and it is almost like, well, I'll try that. That
was fun.
And that's where it's just a little bit of education, having an expert, because I think I didn't even realise sometimes that you get mentored all the time, aren't you? If you've played hockey, I've obviously done different sports, so you've had mentorship roles. Not everyone's had that. Because we've come from a sporting background, you've had people that have give you advice, showed you things. Not everyone has had that. So when they enter a gym, it's sort of, I always think that I assume knowledge of people, and actually some people, they don't really know. We teach the PT courses, and you sort of assume everyone knows how to use dumbbells. You get someone on a dumbbell and you're like, oh, do you not really know how to use these? And it's almost an assumed knowledge, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Sometimes I'll say, oh yeah, and you'll do this. And it's a fairly descriptive sounding exercise. And like, oh, that one, no, or how do you do it again? And you've done it 3 times with them, and they just can't remember.
Yeah, it doesn't go through.
So having some support, and sometimes free information isn't so good because it's free and it's just put out there, but there's a lot of good stuff. Or you know, speak to someone and you can get yourself a bit of a calendar. It doesn't have to be mega detail. Having some sort of plan to achieve a goal is going to help you so much more and prevent you from feeling like you're not making progress. Now you're demotivated. Yeah. And actually it's feeling like a pointless exercise, quite literally. So,
yeah. Training needs a target, they say.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
What would be your second tip?
Second tip kind of goes along with that in terms of accountability, is to buddy up. So that could be a lifting partner, someone who you come to the gym with, maybe 2-to-1 PT, or maybe who someone's around if you're doing strength training who can spot you. You know, examples in this gym, Alfie and Ryan are together quite often. They bounce off each other, they're great. They have similar training goals, which obviously helps. I have 2 sets of 2-to-1 PT clients, and actually it really helps at least one of the 2 of them to get to the session. It means the session gets done. That isn't exclusive to strength training though. We see people come into our classes that we deliver throughout our timetable who they always happen to be at the same class. And there's like almost an unofficial, informal accountability there that kind of grows. And I appreciate that some people come to the same class because that's when they can come. But we see people come into 2 or 3 a week and be like, oh, think you'll be there. Oh, it'll be nice to chat to them. And they do chat in the breaks when we have little rests or just before or just after. And actually, I do think when you have a community sort of feel like we have here, there is almost an underlying accountability there. So if you can, you know, buddy up and go, oh yeah, I'll definitely be here. I really like this class. I'll be here next week. I'll be here next week. And then your absence can show and go, oh, I didn't see you last week. You all right? You know, and this can be a bit of a relationship builder. So or a buddy could be in, I don't know, Fiji or Timbuktu. It doesn't have to be someone who's even present, but just someone. Can you reach out to someone who plays your sport in a different country and, how's your training going? And you can, challenge and inspire and encourage each other, get through training plateaus and things like that. So I just think having your own accountability is important. If you set yourself some goals, you do need to still be striving towards them. But I think having some sort of buddy in whatever capacity or however frequent the touch time is between you can go a really long way.
Yeah, and I would say actually, as you said that, anecdotally, thinking about some of the people in here that train together, they're some of the fittest and strongest, aren't they?
Yeah, and the
so
most
the lads
consistent.
down in the pit, some of the guys that are coming to the circuits are the most consistent, even with people that do the fitness racing. So it's almost like, I would say, if you were to ask me that question, I would say that, the people that do buddy up more, have training partners more so than go solo. Yeah. I would say they end up being the fitter and stronger ones within the gym.
And because the big say, consistency as well. I know for some of the 2-to-1 clients, I know that one of them wouldn't probably come. And actually I've got a couple of guys that come and see me who not only do they see me on a Tuesday, then they also get together on a Thursday as well. Neither of those sessions might happen if they didn't do that. So it really does go a long way. People don't like letting each other down. So
we'll go on to, these are big 2 for you being a nutritionist. So it's waiting for this one, top 2 nutrition tips.
Yeah, so I could go, there's so many things that I could say, and obviously you're distilling it down to 2. I know, choosing them is difficult, and as an all-rounder I want to talk about everything. But the first one that I wanted to say that I want to go slightly against the grain is to allow yourself to enjoy calorie-dense foods. So calorie-dense foods can be things like chocolate, pizza, crisps, ice cream, sweets, those kind of things, because all foods have a value, even if that value is just enjoyment. A lot of socialising involves food. A lot of socialising with food involves calorie-dense foods. You're a big fan of hickories, going out with the family, which usually across at least 1 or 2 courses, you're going to consume quite a lot of calories. It's okay. A lot of social occasions, birthdays, things like that. I wouldn't want anyone to think, oh, I'm going to go to that social occasion, but I can't have what's on offer. Because actually, quite literally, breaking bread or sharing the thing is something that to us as humans is an important part of connection. I don't know if you've ever had mates turn up to a restaurant with a tub of chicken rice and broccoli and be like, I'm eating this. And there's something jarring about that. And actually, all those foods have a place in a really well-balanced diet. There are no good and bad foods. No one food will make you unhealthy or one meal will make you unhealthy, just like no one food will make you healthy. I could eat a wheelbarrow of broccoli right now. It doesn't mean I'm healthy. In fact, there'd probably be something wrong with me. But just like eating a family bar of dairy milk one night, because you burn a ton of calories doesn't make...
so they say, don't they, what is it? Is the phrase, the poison's in the dose?
Yeah, absolutely.
So what would you say to the people, though, that turn around and say, well, actually, there are unhealthy foods and some foods are bad for you and processed is bad? And actually, because you do get people, I would say the sort of middle ground view is very much that you can have a balanced diet.
Yeah.
And the poison's in the dose, and, you know, you drink too much water, that's bad for you.
Yeah.
You know, so it's all about moderation and having that. But there are a lot of people that turn around and say, that ultra-processed, that food right there, you shouldn't be eating it. And they'll sort of call to claims as though, look at the various health epidemics that we have. Now, you might argue, well, that's indirect and the science in there isn't there. But there are a lot of people, aren't they, that say, this food is bad. Like, this food is unhealthy and you shouldn't be eating it. So, for example, cereal on the shelves, they might say, you shouldn't eat this at all, ever. So you'll get influencers that will say that. So what would you be your sort of counter to that? Because you've just said that you can enjoy these foods.
Yeah, absolutely.
Some people say you can't.
Yeah, they say you can't, because oftentimes those epidemics or issues are a result of the fact that those foods themselves are really easy to overeat.
Yeah.
They're not only they're calorie dense, but they're designed to be eaten and consumed consistently, persistently, over and over again in large volumes. Sadly, the food industry has accelerated its science and research and success in creating foods that to humans are hyperpalatable, hedonic, hunger, it taps into that. Therefore, it's really easy to overconsume them. So obviously, for some people, if you start eating those foods, you find it difficult to stop. So I don't want to go too far into the science, but bliss points, so things that, you know, there's certain foods you might have eaten where you go, oh my God, I can't put it down.
Flapjacks.
Yeah.
From the...
Yeah, it's like, it's that sugar-fat ratio or salt-fat ratio that with a human, you just want to mainline it. Pringles are a big one, other brands are available and all that. Sugared donuts, ice cream, the fat rate, crisps, the fat ratio to the salt or the sugar is just the absolute Goldilocks zone where we just want to eat loads of it. So yeah, maybe the fact that for some people, if they eat it, they can't really seem to exert control. But there is no evidence for people who prioritise, you know, lean proteins, legumes, whole grains, healthy, like monounsaturated and polyunsaturated fats, and also have in their diet some hyperpalatable, ultra-processed foods. There are no negative outcomes reported. So these things can be in your diet. And in fact, I would, you know, say counter it with, I know for absolute facts that there are elite athletes that eat Ben & Jerry's, for example, or ice creams, because these foods don't do harm in small doses. Elite athletes in endurance events, they eat a hell of a lot of glucose, you know, whether that's through jelly babies or gels or certain flapjacks, those sports nutrition products that we see time and time again, you know, really energy dense but small volume. If sugar was bad, because that's obviously a big thing, oh, sugar's bad, don't feed it to your kids, they're going mental, they're going to have diabetes, all that sort of stuff. Well, that's been massively overstated. Okay, yes, like anything, don't have too much. But elite athletes literally use these as tools. So if elite athletes were harming themselves with these products, we would surely see that elsewhere in the population as well. And the big thing around ultra-processed foods or ultra-tasty foods, like calorie-dense ones, like chocolate, pizza crisps, that kind of thing, if we attach, and it goes back to language around food is really interesting and really important, and there's lots of, you can't have that, you're on a diet, or don't have that, it's bad. And we're really dogmatic as a general population. And if you attach labels to food and say, can't have that, it's bad, you're also making it a bit of a forbidden fruit, and that's when we kind of, actually as humans, you go, don't touch that, it's hot. What are you going to do? You're going to touch it. Yeah. You know, and we actually cause our own binge restrict cycles by kind of making that naughty or mischievous, or you can't have that. And I work with a lot of clients where you kind of trying to want to eliminate that as best as possible. Sometimes people cope better abstaining completely from those sorts of foods. Some people having a little bit every single day reduces, it takes the power out of that food. And I get about a week in, like, I don't want to eat any more biscuits. Like, they're not that great, actually. There was that whole, I'm just going to smash a Snickers and it's going to make me feel amazing because it's a bit naughty and it's really hyper palatable. And they go, actually, I don't really feel that great, you know. But then on the other hand, someone else who really needs a Snickers, like a cyclist who's, about to tank their race because they're not got enough energy. A Snickers is exactly what they need in that moment.
Our kit man, Rob, he eats a lot of sweets.
He does.
But he did the deadly dozen, didn't he? And turns up at the gym with a pack of flumps, which for a 52-year-old man, you shouldn't be eating flumps, in my opinion. But he set up the deadly dozen and did it in 47 minutes at 52 years old. So it's pretty impressive. And he eats a lot of sweets. He says, without sweet, I said, he eats a bag of sweets. I says, without them, he feels terrible. But obviously then has the diet around it. Yeah. So that's your first tip. What would be your second nutrition tip?
Second nutrition tip would be for most people, not for everyone, would be if you are struggling to reach your nutrition goals and you don't really know what you're doing wrong, you're a bit lost, track for a fortnight using a free tracking tool like MyFitnessPal or MacroFactor, just to really see exactly what's going on. Because a lot of people are unconsciously inadherent. They don't really know that actually they're putting more into their body than they're actually tracking, or they're counting calories incorrectly. And also it's a real eye-opener and educator to show where some of the calorie-dense products are probably creeping into their diet and actually taking them over their energy needs. And similarly, in the opposite direction, there are foods you can eat in higher volumes, perhaps, that have a lot of fibre, nutrition, water, like vegetables and fruits, that are very nutrient dense rather than calorie dense, that actually you could have way more of and eat more food overall. And a lot of people go, whoa, I can have like loads of this. I can have you've seen me regularly eat a whole punnet of strawberries sat at my desk on a Friday, and I'll just eat the whole thing. And then sometimes I'm like, right, I've got this much in my budget, as I like to work with clients, I call it like an energy budget if you're tracking. And I go, I've got 200 left, I don't really want to spend it on a Snickers. I'm really hungry. That's not going to fill me, not going to sustain me or nourish me. So actually, I'm going to spend it differently. And it's a really good educator to see either you're going way over and you didn't realise, or learn how to manage your budget, basically. Yeah. So if it's 2,000 calories, you can split it into 3 equal parts. You can split it into 10 equal parts. You can split it into one massive hit in the evening if you want to. You can fluctuate it, whatever you want. But it's a real eye-opener, an educator, and often people go, see, what I've been doing is I've been eating that many, but what I didn't log was the plates of food that my kids didn't finish that I ate. I'm like, they're like these little ninja calories. You're like, no, I stick to 3 square meals. Like, when you're like scraping the kids' teeth, or like they've left half a sandwich, what happens to it? Oh yeah, it goes in my face. And then before you know, I've put 2 pounds on, but I'm definitely in a calorie deficit. I definitely am. Tracking doesn't make sure that you're in a calorie deficit, but it damn sure helps you see where things are coming from, what's going in, what's going out. So, a couple of weeks, just give me that, let's get some data, let's measure it, let's look at it, and we can see where some small tweaks and changes can be made. So
it's like education, isn't it?
Yeah.
It makes sense. It's almost like almost like a testing week, isn't it? Let's really test to see where you're at.
Testing battery. You would do that for S&C, wouldn't you? And it can be a great way of going, right, this is what you habitually eat across a typical day and a typical week. And what I like to do with my clients is not to introduce wholesale sweeping changes immediately, because it's too far away from what they're already used to doing for years, because what they've been doing for years has led them to this point. So we can go, okay, so the bulk of that, let's just tweak this here. We can reduce that portion down, we can swap that out for something else and make small changes that feel manageable. Because a lot of people come to me and go, my diet's crap, I'm awful, I'm terrible. Firstly, they're not terrible, but also if they're then like, I need to change everything, they're motivated to, but it won't happen in reality because life happens. So we actually need a really good lot of data, and it educates us as you go. And actually, most clients, when they do it, like, oh, I didn't realise I'd done that. So they come to me and they've already started to make changes within that. So there's already a bit of success starting to happen there anyway.
And the key is to make sure when you are tracking that you don't go, oh, I won't have that chocolate bar because I'll have to put it on the app. You do it properly. So the next one is, what are your top 2 mindset tips? And this is also an opportunity to talk about any challenges you might have faced that obviously might have resulted in you needing to use these mindset tips.
Yeah, so my first one is something that I've heard on the High Performance podcast, kind of a long time listener. It talks about taking 100% responsibility for yourself. So the example they use on there is if someone turns up on your doorstep with a baby and leaves it there, it's not your fault, but it is your responsibility as a human being to do something about it. So I'm a big believer for myself, and over the last probably few years, I'd say, I've really started to try and implement that and take 100% responsibility for the good, the bad and the ugly of anything I've done. And it has helped me enormously in being able to go self-employed, for one, because you quickly learn no one's doing it for you. Because as well, if you're surrounded by other self-employed people, they've got their own stuff that they're doing. So you really have to start digging in, taking action, and taking responsibility for everything you do. It doesn't just happen in business, but I take full responsibility for things I've said to people, done to people. Again, the good and the bad. And I just think if everybody did that, there would be so much more, we'd be more productive potentially. And it's a really great way of, advancing yourself, moving the needle, taking action, and not also being too critical of myself, but also anticipating any problems and going, if there's a problem, you need to sort it, especially if this is something you said you would do. And when things go wrong, be like, you know what, I should have thought of that. Sorry guys, won't happen again.
And I always say, don't always think that things will be all right, because sometimes they won't. Don't bury your head in the sand. I've done that a lot of times in business, historically, where I just think, it'll be all right. Not really followed things up, email-wise, or looked into, that energy bill was a little bit high. And not really looked into why it was high, because I'd fallen out of the energy, and all of a sudden they're charging me, these flexi rates, and it was like 3 times the amount. But if I was to chase that up, so it's taking that full responsibility, essentially. I've done that a lot, where it's not necessarily taking responsibility, but it's sort of feeling like, things will be all right, or that will get sorted. Maybe it won't, unless you take charge. And that's something that I do a lot now, where I think, well, actually, do I need to take action? So what would you say is your second mindset tip?
So my second mindset tip is leave the pieces on the floor and move the fuck on. So there was a quote I heard from Tupac, of all people, Tupac Shakur, of hip-hop fame.
Yeah, it's getting even.
I never saw a Tupac record.
No, it's a curveball. So it's one of those quotes that came to me just at the right moment. The timing was really, really key. It couldn't have been better. So I was on Google, and I'd seen this image of him, and it said, you can spend, I think it's hours, days, minutes, months analysing what could have and should have happened, or you can leave the pieces on the floor and move the fuck on. And at the time, I'd gone through a relationship breakup, and I'd argue probably one of my greatest strengths is also one of my greatest weaknesses, which is I'm very analytical. Some people call it overthinking.
Paralysis by analysis.
I prefer analytical, but it's something that I was doing too much of post this breakup, trying to work out, did I do something wrong? Could I have done this? And it got to the point where I saw this quote from Tupac, and I thought, nothing's changing. And me sitting here spending energy and time, whether that's thoughts or whatever, was really pointless. Nothing was going to change. Nothing was going to go back to how it was. This is doing nothing. I've analysed it to the point that I can't learn any more now. And I saw this quote and went, today you're going to leave the pieces and move on.
Well, they often say, don't they, that wisdom is essentially just knowledge at the right time. So you can have a load of information, it's knowing when to say it. That's the wise person. So a knowledgeable person might go, this about this and this about this. The wise person knows when to say it. And knows when it's going to be useful. Anyone can have knowledge or regurgitate knowledge. Being wise is being able to mechanise that knowledge. So for you, it was like that. What would have been for someone else maybe at the time was just another quote. For you, it was profound.
Really
because
profound.
It was timing.
It was.
It was said at the right time,
It was that day, and I was like, I'm done. This has had to happen now. And I think we've spoken to Vanessa about it.
Thank you, Tupac.
Exactly. Big thanks from him. So Vanessa said about navel gazing, and sometimes you do need a bit of time. I don't get me wrong, I don't now expect myself to just go click, boom, move on. I am analytical, I am going to need a bit of time, but I recognise in that moment it was definitely time. We're done now. We need to just leave those pieces where they are and move on. So that's definitely helped me, and I think it does come into my mind sometimes when, if I start to feel, have I given this too much, am I giving this too much airtime, am I talking about this too much without action? So a lot of the time I'll be like, with going back to the first tip around taking 100% responsibility, try to employ that sort of stoic principle, whether it's an opportunity that's presented itself, a good one, or something bad has happened, getting let down by the pizza company and being like, oh shit, I've got 5 days to sort out an outdoor pizza catering company to make sure the Deadly doesn't have what we need and we can feed our volunteers. I remember saying to you, yeah, pizza companies let me down, I'll sort it.
Yeah.
And I knew I would, because I was like, I will find someone, because I've got to sort it out, because it's my responsibility to make sure vendors are at Deadly Dozen events. I will find someone. And I genuinely, it wasn't me trying to soothe myself and sort of push down any panic. I was like, I'll sort this. I need to get on the phone, I need to get on the internet. And I did, and we've sorted it, and it was fine. And it's very much a quick thinking in my head, Bex, what are you going to do? No emotion, just what are you going to do about it? Even if that's, do you want to go and do this amazing thing? And go, what are you going to do? Have a think and do it. So it works for the good, the bad, the ugly, just going, what are you going to do next? And taking action that is the right decision.
It's a sort of stoic take I like, that's what I like. So question number 4, what are your top 2 tips for improving the quality of someone's life? And these have got to be not related to diet and exercise. Yeah,
which is really hard because it's literally everything that I do and am involved with. Yes, my first tip around improving the quality of someone's life is to accept and acknowledge that nothing is for everyone. It's a phrase I heard once that I really, really like. So there's lots of things that influencers, content creators, should I say, will say, you've got to be doing this, should do this. If you're not doing this, you're doing it wrong. Take an ice bath, have CBD, do meditation. And it's like, whoa, okay, I'll try that. And then for me, I find it quite irritating when people say those things so sort of dogmatically, and then it gives people a bit of a complex, like, oh, I'm not getting up at 5 a.m. doing Mark Wahlberg workouts, and I'm not journaling, and I'm not doing this and that. Nothing is for everyone, and you do have to find what's good for you and the thing you enjoy and do a lot of it. That might be Zumba, not for me. That might be hockey, very much for me. It might be eating this food and not that one. That's fine. You don't have to do wheatgrass shots or eat carnivore diet. You need to find your path, and you need to try things to enable you to find out what's good for you and what is for you. But it doesn't mean that just because Dave next door lost 2 stone on keto diet that you have to do it.
And it's also inverse as well, isn't it? That as a coach, it's a good thing to, and as a person to know that that person might not be into what you're into or might not respond to what you like. So it's inverse as well. You knowing it yourself that, you know, this might not be for me, but also knowing this might not be for other people.
Yeah.
You know, because I think there is a lot of content creators that say this is the way you should do this, or you think people should be or respond a certain way. Some people just aren't going to like what you do. And I think that's good confidence as a coach, knowing that no matter what you do, some people will dislike it. You know, it's that's just the way it is, especially on the internet. You know, you could have whatever quality it may be. There's going to be people that love it and people that hate it, and there's going to be certain things that you love and hate.
Yeah, definitely. And I think we've got different coaches in the gym, and there's probably clients who, if we swapped them around, be like, no, I think I'll go back to my original person I was with, because they were attracted to you for whatever reason in the first place, and you're not quite the right trainer for them, or they're not the right client for you, and that's all right. It's absolutely fine. You need to find your lane or your thing or your people, whether that's collecting trains or it's playing tiddlywinks or it's Zumba or knitting, or it doesn't matter. And a phrase that I absolutely love that I think could go into some of these tips as well is find people that challenge and inspire you, spend a lot of time with them, and it will change your life. And I know of a particular, so Hockey for Heroes is a massive thing for me, and they're people that do exactly that. That has definitely changed my life, my mindset, my training, things I've gone on to in life in the last 7 years, and that's huge. You're not going to find that in the same circles as everyone that you know. And when people are really evangelical and really, really want to let you know about this exciting thing that's brought them success, either in their diet or exercise or their lifestyle, like, oh, you've got to do this, you've got to take an ice bath, you've got to meditate, and you're like, oh, it's okay if you don't like it.
Yeah.
And I'd like some people to be able to go, yeah, it's not for me.
Well, I invited someone to, was it a part, it was something in here, it might have been an activity we're doing, And I said, do you want to come to this? And he went, no. And I said, why not? He says, because I don't want to. And I went, fair enough. And I actually really respected it. Because you know, everyone's like, oh, I don't know. And he just went, I don't want to. And I was like, fine. And I've always remembered that, and now it's like, I'm quite happy, because it came across quite funny as well, so I'm quite saying, you know, so my brother said to me, oh, do you want to come to the markets in wherever he lives? And I said, no. And he says, why? I says, it's not my thing. It's busy markets aren't my thing, unfortunately. Some people love them. For me, I don't enjoy them, you know, constantly getting knocked. So now when people ask me to do stuff, I go, no. Or people say, you're going to go skiing? No, why not? Don't want to. Why not? Because I like things I like.
I like warm.
I've got so many, from my podcast, I have that many hobbies that I enjoy, that for me now, I'm obviously busy, my time's precious. So if someone says, do you want to do this? I'm like, no. Why? Because I'm not wasting my time. Life's short.
Yeah, and time for me is, I was talking to someone about this the other day. We were talking about money, but time is the far greatest currency. But unfortunately, it's not one it doesn't replenish. You can't get it back. So, and life is very short. We've spoken about lots of things in the past that have either happened to us or people around us, and things get put in perspective, and you really realise time is precious. And tomorrow's not promised.
Well, that's what we do in business. Is what happens in business is you try and make more money, then eventually you spend the money to create more time, and that's the way it goes. So what would be your second tip for improving life?
So it might be a bit basic, and I've tried to think of things that people wouldn't maybe touch on, but actually it's to value and prioritise sleep. Something that is actually being talked about a lot. It could be my perspective because of the podcasts and things and how I take on information, stuff like that, but it affects everything. Like, it affects your training quality because of the recovery. It affects your relationships, your friendships, your job, your productivity. And it's something that, again, a bit like time, you actually can't get it back. You can't claw back sleep. You can't go, I'll sleep at the weekend. Yeah, but it doesn't work like that. We know that now around sleep science. And if you've ever had a session where you think, oh, last week trained really well, come in this morning and I can't get the barbell to move. It feels like someone's put way more weight on the bar. I remember having a client who had gone and they had a really good 3 weeks or so building up, and then they had a session where they were like, I don't know what's wrong with me today, but it just felt crap. I've eaten well, work was fine, no stress. I was like, how was your sleep? Oh, yeah, got about 3 hours last night. Bingo. Because they've just not slept well. Their body needs to do so much stuff, and, you know, not sleeping well throughout a heavy training period during your program that you've hopefully got from your plan, it really does affect recovery. Recovery affects the next training session, and it all just compounds. And we are in an age, aren't we, where we're designed to be awake, engaged, on all the time. And so many people maybe don't really quite prioritise it. And, you know, drinking affects sleep, but a lack of sleep itself is more detrimental to our health than maybe people realise.
And also phones before sleep as well, keeps people up.
Yeah.
So we'll move on to question 5. How do you define success, and what are your top 2 tips for achieving it?
So for me, I like to see it as continuous improvement. So whether that's continuous self-development, where I'm advancing things in business or my mindset or my training, rather than financial. And I think a lot of people will want to say, oh, no, money doesn't define success. For some people it does. Some people are like, I want to be a millionaire. Some
people it's just beans, it's a way of quantifying.
Yeah, exactly. They want to be swimming in cash like Scrooge McDuck, and that's fine. You know, it could be the most valuable thing to them. That's great. For me, I like to be able to look back and go, did I make a good decision to advance my PT knowledge or my nutrition knowledge? Did I make sure I was developing myself from my nutrition clients to understand how I can deliver better services? Can I have more clients? Can I make sure that all the Deadly Dozen races are a big success? So success, basically building brick by brick stuff that improves me and the things around me that I care about, all the different pillars in my life. It could be relationships. It doesn't have to always be business things. It could be my relationships. For example, actually, I'll go something a bit personal. My relationship with my dad at times was non-existent. And every year since we reconciled, basically, it has grown and grown and grown. And even every year that goes by, it gets better and better because both of us try and do more things to elevate that. We've had better conversations over the last probably 2 years that we ever have it in my entire life. And it just gets better over time. So I've worked at that, so I see that as a success because it's something that isn't measurable by money or data or metric, but as a feeling. And yeah, it's continuous improvement. And, you know, he's never been more valuable in my life. And I want it to keep improving. And that's something that can be set as a bit of a goal to succeed with that, so that we both get the most out of a relationship that we maybe missed out on at times.
Oh, wow.
It's really important to me.
So what would be your tips for achieving them things then?
Yeah, so my top 2 tips for achieving that success, firstly would be a sponge. So you're probably surrounded by people within your community, whether it's a gym community like this or even somewhere at work. There are loads of people with knowledge that from different backgrounds, ages, different values that can help you advance what it is that you're trying to do. So I'm lucky enough to know other business owners who are really great and really invested in helping other people. And if you talk to them, have a coffee with them, ask good questions, be humble. It doesn't matter if someone's younger than you, older than you, has never been anywhere near the industry you're in. There is loads of knowledge and sometimes a fresh pair of eyes to look at what you're doing and go, oh, hey, have you thought about this? I think be humble, be a sponge can take you a long way. I know for yourself, having observed you with your clients, you've got people who you talk to Deadly Dozen about and they offer advice that you wouldn't have gotten if you didn't talk to them about it. And they're coming at it from a completely different angle. And you can either take that advice on or you can go, oh, actually, yeah, I didn't think of that. But you have because you've got a fresh pair of eyes.
Yeah, they're like a soundboard for me, really, aren't they?
Yeah.
It's probably me just talking about Deadly Dozen too much. But they are like a soundboard, aren't they? And you've probably seen that where people from completely different backgrounds, to use the example, is they literally go, this is my opinion on this and on this. And it's amazing, isn't it? Because they are such a broad range.
Yeah.
So I definitely agree with that. So what's your second tip?
So second tip is to be able to like move the needle on anything is to actually focus on fewer things at once. I think people so often get stuck into that busyness trap and it almost becomes like a vanity thing and oh yeah, I'm so busy. And it's almost like vanity and sort of hustle harder and do more stuff.
Yeah,
running,
yeah.
oh, I've not got time for that, mate. Sorry, I'm so busy with work. To actually, you know, move something 10% on rather than just 0.5 or 1%, but you're feeling busy with it. It might be that you need to just look at one thing that day. And it might feel really uncomfortable and counterintuitive to go, right, I just need to focus on this. But actually you'll move the needle way more that day by doing 1 or 2 things rather than 10, sitting down. And everyone loves writing a to-do list, don't they? Go, oh, look at all these things I've got to do. Oh, I'll even write something on that I've already done so I can cross it off.
False productivity. You feel productive, but you've not actually done anything.
You're really not. And actually prioritising what do you really need to do today? What is more important?
I think there was a study, sorry to interrupt, where they pretty much established that humans are not good at multitasking as a whole. You know, they often argue about the sexes, but actually as a whole, it's well established that you do a lot of things not very well when you try to do everything.
Yeah.
And I'm always a victim of being a busy fool. I'm terrible. It's and you feel productive, you feel busy, but you are being a busy fool.
Yeah, totally.
And I'm a massive. Everything you're saying there is a lot of it. I was like, oh, she's talking about me. It's false productivity, to-do lists, and then you write this to-do list or you listen to a podcast that's about business and you feel crazy productive, and you've not actually achieved anything. You finish a business book and go, wow, I feel like I can take over the world, and it's like you've not actually done anything though. Yeah, you have learned, and learning is progress, but it's not action, is it?
Yeah.
And it's very easy to have that.
And I think that goes. Sort of links a little bit back, or it does in my mind, back to the whole 100% responsibility thing of what you're going to do. And that's my question, what are you going to do? Not what you're going to think now about what you've been analysing or looking at and navel-gazing, as Vanessa was saying. It's like, what are you going to do? What action are you going to take next? Because actually that's going to be the thing that moves things on, that progresses stuff. And yeah, there's a guy that was like a productivity expert on the High Performance podcast. And he said, what's your biggest priority? To Jake, the presenter, he's like, oh, well, I mean, my family, my kids. He's like, show me your diary, show me your calendar. I was like, there you go. And it was like this meeting, business meeting, business meeting. He's like, okay, where are your family and kids there? You've just shown me what your real priority is. And that was a massive learning moment for him. He's like, oh, okay. So he changed things around, and that might be a bit of an extreme example. I appreciate not everyone can actually just go, right, rip up the diary, start again. But if you do just come down to a few things that are manageable, like the whole boulders and the sand and the grit, it's an analogy and stuff like that, move some big boulders first.
Well, they say, don't they, that on an executive level, but it probably comes down, is that when they look at, say, a CEO's diary, they should look for white space in the diary, because if the CEO's blocked out, he or she is never going to be able to sort out the problems that happen every single day. And in your own personal life, if you don't have sort of white space in the diary, then all the things that come up every day, you're going to be constantly busy, rushing to get them done. So if you're constantly booking yourself out, you're always going to be in a position to be rushed and be like, oh, I've hit a hurdle here, because you're never allowing yourself space to get stuff done.
Or too quick to go, did it, got it off the desk, good, done, off, away.
Yeah.
Was it your best though? Or did you actually give it the best you could have done? So that would be.
So final question, which is question six, not the final question, but the final of the 6, before we go to the 13th. What are your top 2 tips are you giving yourself for the future?
Yeah, so my first top tip for the future would be a good person, nurture good relationships with the people around you, and the rest will kind of fall into place. So being a good person could be making sure I'm a supportive friend or family member. Being a good person could be being flexible with the client to their needs, whether in the session or planning when they're going to have the session. And I think that leads on to good relationships. Good relationships lead on to recommendations. And it's not all about business, because obviously I mentioned friends and family and stuff there, but I do think being a good person, being reliable, being consistent, being supportive really goes a long way, especially in the industry we're in. There's a couple of guys, Dan and Mike from, what's their business called? Business and Banter, who say, if you give a shit about your clients, you're already in a top bracket within the industry, because a lot of people, they love fitness and they love training, but they don't always have that sort of caring, nurturing pastoral side of things. So I go into my coaching with a lot of empathy, and I want to build a relationship with someone. That then, a byproduct of that is obviously income, but also retention, which is important as well. So being a good person, establish relationships, good things will happen. It's sowing seeds in the ground and watering them, basically. And I feel like that hopefully makes me a good team member, trustworthy, reliable with my clients, attracts new people to work with, is able to then go off and deliver other things I like to do, like nutrition workshops, and be recommended. That's happened literally in the gym. So one of Matt's clients recommended me to someone where they work, and we're like, get Bex in. So the things I've done, and by just being me, has allowed sort of manufactured opportunity for me. And I think that's hopefully going to keep me in business, and also keep finding opportunities and carving them out, really, by doing that. Be a good person, and be someone who's...
And as long as, in this game as well, in the PT game, I've seen PTs lose clients where they've felt quite self-conscious about that, and clients often just move on. People will leave this gym because they suddenly decide they want a pool or they want something different, and lives move on and people move on. So as long as you know that you've been, like in my words, I say, as long as I've been fair is a big thing for me. For you, it's being that good person. If you've provided a good service, that you don't almost feel, oh, have I done something wrong? Like, because you can overanalyze. But I say to all the coaches in here, like, when people move on, most of the time it's just they want something different. And I think if you are confident, you won't have that imposter syndrome, or you won't have that feeling of, what have I done? If you know deep down, well, I've provided the best possible service then. And therefore, you know what, I've done everything I can. One
of the things that prevented me from going full-time into nutrition when I initially did the qualification and thought, one day I'll go self-employed one day, I'll do it. Never did. Got made redundant instead. Mindset got me through it. And it's all good and saw it as an opportunity rather than a threat. And one of the big things was I was worried I wouldn't get enough clients to be able to ultimately pay the bills. And secondly, that I wouldn't retain them. And actually, doing a good job over and over again is key to that. But I remember a client finished with me, and I remember looking at it and going, I know I over-delivered with that client every single time. So I took responsibility for myself, and I thought, what happened there? Over-delivered. It's more about them, really. And it didn't actually worry me, even though that person was doing quite a few sessions a week, which represented was my biggest income client, really. And instead of thinking, okay, I'm losing money, it was, okay, what do you want to do with those time slots now? What can you do instead? And retention will take care of itself if each session you deliver is very, very good and it meets your client's needs. So rather than looking at retaining clients and signing them up to something that kind of handcuffs them in and sort of traps them a little bit, I go, if I deliver and they enjoy it, and I deliver and they enjoy it, and again and again and again, I should be okay. And if clients do walk away because financial reasons or they emigrate or whatever, or it's just not for them anymore, like we're saying, nothing is for everyone. People's goals change. It's okay.
Yeah.
And then I can either go, do I want another client? Do I need that time for me to train or for me to do Deadly doesn't work? I can make a decision, and it's the whole, Bex, what are you going to do about it?
Yeah,
what are you
responsibility.
going to do next? Yeah,
so what's
definitely.
your final tip then for yourself? Sorry, not the 13th tip, the second tip, giving yourself for the future.
So exactly that, delivering a good session or delivering what I need to do with the Deadly Dozen races, the vendors, the things I take care of with the venues again and again and again. So I'm literally just looking at it brick by brick, and then overall I'll build a good wall of success and action and making sure I'm delivering on the things I'm supposed to.
So it's good for Deadly, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's really good, yeah.
Someone's tip for the future is do a good job. That's what we like to hear.
Exactly,
But
yeah.
it's essentially what we've got, isn't it? Is everyone seems to be accountable and they want to do a good job. And I think one of the key strengths to this industry, i.e. the fitness industry, is that you tend to get people that are quite passionate.
Yeah.
You know, even though things are an income, the people involved, the reasons people get in, the whys, is because they've got some level of passion, and therefore they approach it from a new angle. So we'll go on to your 13th tip to give us, for the podcast, one final tip. It can be about anything that you want to give directly to the audience.
So my final tip is to not mix consistency with perfection. So I hear so often from clients or people I just speak to about nutrition and training, and like, I just need to be more consistent. I'm really terrible, never consistent. What they're really meaning is I need to be doing the thing, whether that's eating to a particular diet or eating well or training well or doing a particular regime again and again and again and again and again, and not actually allowing for the odd dip.
Yeah.
So they're mistaking.
So you're almost saying that consistency doesn't have to be perfect.
Exactly.
Yeah,
That's exactly what I'm saying. So 80-20 rule, Pareto's law, something like that.
Yeah.
If you're really good sporadically, you're amazing every now and again, the needle ain't moving, the big ball isn't moving forward. And actually you're giving yourself that real roller coaster effect of, oh, I'm great, oh, no, I'm terrible, I'm hard on myself. Oh, I'm really great, big pat on the back, oh, I'm terrible again. You're better off being consistently average, 6, 7 out of 10 quality. Most of the time, you will progress. So I think people think that being consistent is repeat over and over again, but that would
Getting
be perfect.
everything right.
Yeah, all the time, even every week or every month. We know that doesn't really happen. So you're setting yourself up for a lofty target that isn't really attainable. Perfection, people try and strive for it and actually send themselves loopy. You know, you've seen chefs in the catering industry go absolutely bonkers trying to achieve 3 Michelin stars and things, and it absolutely screws them over. And they're looking for perfection, and it really doesn't exist. So striving for something that's going to cause you more stress isn't worth it. You know, so consistently average is better than sporadically amazing.
Yeah, I like that one. So to finish the podcast is essentially it's consistency doesn't have to be perfect.
No, not at all.
No, great.
No.
So it's like I say, there's Bex's 12 tips from the 6 questions. Hope you found value in them. You know, I learned a lot there, and
Cool.
great feedback as a whole, great information. So join us on the next podcast. Until next time.